Good evening and welcome. This is Weekend Report. I am Yabodi Olorun-Shola. Tonight on Weekend Report, federal government commits to a robust national identification system for national development. The Nigerian Security Defense Corps catches up with more criminals in Kwara State. On our discussion table tonight, we take a look at the rising inflation in Nigeria, its implications, and possibly the way forward. And of course, updates from the world of sports and weather. This and more shortly. Please stay with us. The federal government has reiterated its commitment towards developing a robust and harmonized national identification system for national development. The pledge was made when a delegation of the Nigerian Digital Identification for Development Project visited the office of the Secretary to the government of the Federation. Mite Ipen tells us more.
More than 13 public institutions independently provide various forms of identification services which are yet to be harmonized. But most Nigerians want a national database that will properly aggregate and keep accurate data of citizens. The World Bank's Digital Identification for Development project supports 49 countries, including Nigeria, with counterpart funding towards achieving digital identification and civil registration ecosystems. The Nigerian office is working with NIMC and the National Population Commission to digitize and harmonize all civil registrations in the country,
including digitizing the registration of births and deaths, capacity building, and a review of their legal and institutional frameworks. We appeal to the SGF to please help to open doors of all relevant public institutions for the project. This introduction will not only strengthen the project stakeholders' engagement, but will induce high-level buy-in on the project and its goals.
The delegation is assured of the federal government's support towards the realization of the project.
You cannot use the identification cards beyond the immediate domains of where they were created. But Nigeria needs to go beyond this. When you hold a national ID, you should be able to use it across board.
A unified national identification system is expected to help mitigate insecurity, enhance ease of doing business, as well as access to social services. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
And back home in Kwara North of Kwara State, a suspected kidnapper from Oyo State, Bodo Alhaji Musa, was during the week arrested by men of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps Kwara Command in Bani, Kayama local government area of the state. Abdulafiz Alaya was at the command's office where the suspect was paraded.
Bodo Abdullah is alleged to belong to a gang of kidnappers who abducted a businessman in Maya, Oyo State, collected ransom from his family, and later killed the victim. Following the arrest of a member of the gang in Oyo, the suspect, according to the NSCDC Public Relations Officer, Olasukami Ayeni, fled to Kwara and was apprehended through an intelligence tip-off.
Case of kidnapping was reported in Oyo State at the Oyo State Command of Anti-Kidnapping Section, where 3 suspects were arrested and 2 were alleged to have absconded. The information was shared that a suspect and detail was given, and with that our men too were at alert. So, and luckily for us, we ran into the hands of our men at Owode village where he was arrested.
40-year-old Bodo Abdullahi has denied being a member of a kidnapping gang, claiming he only ran to Kwara when he discovered he was being trailed by the police. Though he agreed to have been detained many times for various offenses, both in Kwara and Oyo.
Yari Agodi, I was once remanded in Agodi, Iyaganku, and Ilorin for murder and not kidnapping.
Because the case was instituted at with Nigerian Police Force in Oyo Command. We will go and join other suspects who are already with in the custody of police.
The suspect will be transferred back to Ibadan after proper profiling. Abdulhafiz Alaya, NTA News.
And still from Kayama, a 22-year-old man, Ayuba Enope, has been convicted and sentenced to 3 years imprisonment for burglary and theft. Ayuba was arraigned before a magistrate court sitting in Kayama by the Kwara Command of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps for allegedly breaking into the house of one Mr. Jimo Adikun and carted away 5 bundles of 50 kg sacks. He was eventually arrested by the men of the NSDC while trying to dispose of stolen materials, and further investigations revealed that Ayuba was earlier involved in another burglary and theft of 2 Android phones from one Mr. Abdurazak's residence in Kokwo area, Kayama. Magistrate Abdullahi Hamed Boro, in his ruling, convicted Ayuba and was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment without an option or fine. The acting commandant of the Kwara NSCDC, Jonah Gabriel, has however appealed to Kwarans to be vigilant and report any suspicious movement in their domains to achieve a crime-free society. And moving towards our discussion for tonight, I want us to take a look at this special report by Hamad Fulani.
Many factors such as high volume of demand over supply, poor economic policy, lack of price control in the market are some factors responsible for high inflation rate in Nigeria. The effect of Russia-Ukraine war, insecurity bedeviling the country, epileptic power supply, and the high cost of diesel and gas are also adding insult to injury. Prices of consumables are at a record high. For instance, a crate of egg that was sold for 900 naira last year is now sold within the range of 1,900 naira and 2,000 naira. The price of vegetable oil has also gone up by about 35%, as 25 liters is now sold for 31,500 naira as against last year's price of 26,000 naira. This rise in price, which is not limited to above commodities, prompted me to feel the pulse of some people who blame the daily increment in price of commodities to the effect of lockdown caused by coronavirus in 2020 and lack of government political will to regulate prices.
We depend on imports rather than exporting things. And then we have the insurgency problem. Insurgency problem that is not letting people to go to the farm and bring food to people in town.
The economy is smart in Nigeria. It's not managed well. The government should put the round egg in the round hole.
The respondent gave some tips on how to tackle inflation headlong.
The naira of the 70s is more powerful than what we have right now. And a nation that depends on export or importing, and the currency is getting weaker and weaker, will affect the lives of common people.
Most of these abductors, they go into the farms, abduct farmers, kill them, take their children away. So people are afraid to go back to farm. It is that one has also contributed to food scarcity in Nigeria. So the government needs to assist farmers.
For Nigeria's inflation to be controlled and its economy revived, citizens, experts opined, must elect the right candidate with visions into various elective positions. Ahmed Fulani, NTA News.
Thank you. You're still watching NTA ILORIN Weekend Report, and we move straight to our discussion segment where I will be bringing in my guest. He's here with me. He's a familiar face in the NTA community. He's a familiar face in the University of ILORIN community. He's a familiar face in Kwara State. He's a professor of economics with the University of ILORIN. Welcome, Professor Abdulgafar Ijaya. Thank you for joining us on Weekend Reports.
Thank you again for inviting me.
Okay. This is a critical issue that is affecting everyone. In fact, even the cockroaches and ants in this economy, this thing is affecting us. The inflation rate starting from January this year has been something else. But particularly from May, I noticed that it has affected a lot of things. Why is the inflation rate so fast?
First of all, you try to create a lot of fears on Nigerians. It's a critical thing, but I think maybe because I'm an economics, and just like any medical doctor, they don't see any sickness as any patient that is sick. All they try to do is to see how he can get well. So you can see they are never bothered. So as an economist, it's a thing that is bound to happen, because the fact is, let our viewers know that there are certain things that will definitely happen and continue to happen. It's like what we call this business cycle. You know, it comes and goes.
Okay.
Yes, people are saying, you know, within just 3 months or thereabout, there has been, but to me, I think there's nothing to be afraid of, because by the time we look at the rates, that is by how we look at inflation, when it is a creeping one, when it's a walking one, when it's a running one, when it's a galloping one, when it is hyperinflation, you know. But we've not even getting to the stage where we say, yes, the rate is not running yet. You know,
so on average in Nigeria, this inflation means high.
It's still working. Yes, you see, because we see inflation as has this negative tendency. It's just like when you say poverty, or when you said, you know, unemployment. You know, people look at it and said, you know, you see, because they have that notion. But people there know that inflation towards its own advantage. You know, but
we will get there.
Let's not because the issue is actually an important thing we have to look at, but they don't just crop up.
Okay.
Inflation doesn't just crop up.
So why is it rising? What are the indices that Nigerians should observe?
You see, in our elementary economics, you know, when we talk about the causes of inflation, it used to be, in theory, either a demand pull or a supply push, or cost push inflation. But a new dimension has come to play, which you hardly find theoretically. But over time, because of, you know, what we see in our society, you know, there are, you know, what we call inbuilt inflation that is as a result of our behavior, our mind, our character. You know, when you are in a society where you have people who are greedy, people who are wicked, people who are selfish, you know, and that is the key. That attitude of ours is in fact the reason why we find ourselves in this situation.
My God.
But people don't look at that. They just think, yes, you know, maybe the government or something, or, you know, but our attitude has also led to this. I'll give instances.
Yes, please.
I'll give instances. For instance, you have this announcement effect that the government will just, maybe from the central bank monetary and the usual monetary committee that sits and begin to talk, okay, like the last one, that's where they came up with, okay, interest rate will now move from 13 to 14. It's an announcement that you know, certain things. It's just an announcement. It's an announcement. But before the government begin to implement, we are into it. Announcement. Mere announcement.
Announcement.
The price of fuel will, you know, will most likely rise from the usual 165 to maybe 200. Before you know it,
everybody is selling, even before...
The petrol man will now not sell again, he will hoard, lock up the place, expecting that there will be an increase. And at times, you see the increase will not come. But already he has locked up. In fact, some already will even begin to sell above what they even bought.
Like what happened in the recent time.
So what do you say? You went there, maybe you buy, you get an item for 10,000, and maybe you just had an announcement that thing, in a couple of weeks, it will be 15,000. Without it even increased to that 15,000, you've already started. You've started selling at 15,000. And even part of our attitude is, how can I go to a market and buy an item for 10,000, for instance? And in anticipation that, yes, maybe by the time I go back to the market, that same product will be 20,000. So I now begin to sell it 25,000. So you can see how our attitude has even eaten deep into it. Let's look at our trade associations. The trade association people who sell things in the market, for instance. When I know of this trade association, because I worked on them in my PhD, the informal sector especially. The thing is, I know what I know of trade associations, that they are mostly engaged in social services, providing social service to their members. But trade associations in Nigeria today have become price regulators.
That is sure, because Nigeria does not have a price regulation system.
No. It's price regulator in the sense that they regulate prices themselves. They will tell members that this is what
you sell. You
have to sell. If you don't sell, so they will come and pick up your wares.
Yes.
Why should we go that way? Why should we begin to act that way? When has the trade association become people who fix prices of goods and services?
When the government is not taking the bull by the horn.
No. You see, we don't have to continue to blame the government. You have to kill this government. When my students, even when I'm doing a research on the informal sector in Tanke, and it's a recommendation of our finding, they think the government should do that. I say, you want to kill this government. The informal sector operator, would you recommend something for him, which he himself would do to improve his own business? You want to kill the government. Why is it the government? You go. Why you go? So you see, there's even this issue of insecurity. Yes, we know, because, for instance, in the north, for instance, farmers hardly go to farm. That has eaten into it. Then there is the roadblock inflation, which people don't know.
What is the roadblock inflation, sir?
I'll tell you. There's an house somewhere where I used to buy Irish potato, because I was born and bred in Jos. That's our food. So anytime I go, I say, by the time you go, if you go this week, a basket will be 3,000. By the time you go back again, you say 4,000. They are engaged one day. Why is it all this fluctuation? The price keep changing. He said from Jos to Ilorin, if they don't meet any roadblock, they will meet nothing less than 50 roadblocks.
Wow.
And on each of the roadblocks, they will collect money from them. Local government, police, immigration, custom. Immigration, when we say their own is just to check whether illegal alien, I don't know if Irish potato is an illegal alien. They still collect money. So you see several roadblocks. And as a business person, you'll be stupid. You're not operating on charity. It will be stupid of you to just say, okay, you bought these things at 10,000 from Joe, now you come to sell it at 12,000. Definitely you factor in all those charges, all those things they collected from you on the road.
Come to play.
That again tells about our character. People now, because they know we cherish anything foreign, things that are produced locally. People will still go and put made in Italy in it. Look at some of the shoes that are produced with our, they'll still go and they'll stamp made in Italy on it. What it costs that person to produce that shoe, may not be more than maybe 10,000. But the made in Italy which is stamped there, we tell you it's 50,000. That is the character, the bad character in us. So
and all these things leads to rise in inflation.
These are the things people don't factor in. These are the things people don't
But
factor in.
But are you exonerating government completely?
No. See, okay. The government has its own, because when we look at it from the point of, the aggregate demand and aggregate supply, for instance, because that's the demand pool, the demand side of it, which is the demand pool inflation. the population of Nigeria is getting so high, and there are very few goods now that are in the market. Because the industries have collapsed. Madam, Jeba paper mill used to be one of, by the time we wrote it in Africa, is maybe the number 1 or number 2. Where is Jeba paper mill today? The paper converters which feed from the Jeba paper mill, they've all gone. This paper, the paper we are using, this paper that we are using today to do our work in our offices, go and check where these things are produced. If you don't see made in South Africa, you see made in Indonesia or made in India or made in South Korea. This is where these papers are coming from. Because the paper mill is gone. And now, the demand for foreign exchange has become so high because we are importing virtually everything.
I even learned the dollar has increased to...
It will continue to increase because we are importing virtually everything. So you want to tell me you go import papers with that, when you bring it to Nigeria, you will not put...
You add your own.
What through Taiwo or Tanke?
Almost everything is imported.
You see, shopping mall, they've turned us to consumer nation. We are not producing. You don't see people producing again. Several shopping malls.
An economy that is not producing will definitely
our production base has collapsed. Our production base has collapsed. Agriculture, insecurity has even eaten so deep into it. Manufacturing industries are not even there. Now the manufacturing industry also rely on diesel mostly for their
yes, that's my next question. We have spoken about food and agriculture.
But look at the situation.
How has inflation, how has this latest increase in diesel and fuel affected the inflation?
You see, at times, we are on strike, but people don't know that, our salary was stopped. But because the people there don't know that, we have 3 kind of jobs. My job is not just to go to class and teach. I carry out research, and I do community services. This is one of them. It's a community service. Unless I'm not in time, anytime you call me, you see, I will come because it is in me that yes, I should also provide something to the community. But my salary has been stopped because I refuse going. I'm not going to class. What happened to the 2 other jobs? Within this period of the strike, I've written a paper titled "The Functional Structure of the Nigerian Economy." I went into history of what has happened to us. That this thing did not just start from here. Our refineries are all gone. We're not refining, and we got all the crude. But I'll tell you that because we have people up there who are selfish. Do you know that even some Nigerians have refineries outside our shore?
Yes.
They take our crude free of charge, go there, refine them, and bring them back to this country. If you want to build a refinery, why not in your country?
Why in another man?
Why don't you go the South Korean model?
We are running
where
out of time.
Where they come to establish industries that but we went to other countries, set up refineries, and we are moving crude to that place. Now look at it. The Russian Korean Ukraine war has also come eating into it because whether we like it or not, like wheat for instance.
Yes.
These are the 2 countries.
I know the whole of Africa is affected by that.
The bakers say they and go and strike. And I say government. I say which government?
Which government?
You are going on strike. The government should do what? I look at it. I say that the government should. You just continue to push everything to government. Is this government for that which there should be no wheat? The Korean, the Russian war, Ukraine war. You don't factor it into all the problem we are having, and that's the problem we have in this country. The external shocks, the external variables that that are even so enormous in the way that they affect our economy so much than even the domestic ones. But we know that yes. But most importantly, if we don't change our behavior. If we don't change our behavior, can I put it in Yoruba? That's it. People are just
if we don't change, inflation will.
No, definitely. How can you bring the price of goods and services down when even within us we want to make money, we want to get as much money.
We just want to exploit and cheat one another.
That is it. So these are factors that I think we should also look into. Not just the supply aspect and the demand aspect. Okay. Yes, they've been there. I know, yes, some extent we blame the government. Our industries, what happened?
What happened to them?
You privatize them, you give them to your quarries, people who don't know anything about business, who don't know about industry.
To finish that sector.
They all collapsed. From Babangida in 1986 SAP to When Obasanjo, Atiku and Jonathan came, also privatized all the industry, privatized the power industries. Even when I was invited to a particular workshop on privatization, I said there are different types of privatization policies you have to use. They are emphasizing on outright sale. Don't use outright sale. Use employee participation. Let the employees of those industries be also shareholders. Even if it's only 40% you give them, give it to them.
Give it to them.
There will be commitment.
Yes.
In fact, if they have adopted that model, the industries will still be existing.
You are such a big reserve. I never want you to go anytime you come, but we have run short of time. And I hope I'll be able to bring you back, because I still have a lot of questions that I want to ask you.
No problem.
But on a final note, just give your last word, and then
yes, no problem. I'll come
to invite you back again.
It's part of my community service. With the government, I stopped my salary.
Don't worry, the government will pay.
No, they don't have an option. They'll pay. If they don't pay, we will resume.
Okay. Thank you for coming. In the last 15 minutes or so, we'll be speaking to the Professor of Economics, Professor Abdulgafar Ijaya. I hope you have heard it. I hope we'll also be able to bring him more on again. Thank you for coming, sir. Weekend reports will continue shortly. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us on the Nigerian Television Authority, ILORIN. You're still watching Weekend Reports. Now we move to sports. The Super Falcons recorded their worst performance in Women Africa Cup of Nations history after losing to Bruce Wape's Women of Zambia in the third place match. Ahmad Fulani is standing by for details of sports updates.
Zambia defeated Nigeria 1-0 to win the 2022 Women's Africa Cup of Nations third place playoff on Friday night. A fine Katungo's first half effort separated both teams as the Super Falcons paid for their wastefulness at the Stade Mohammed V Stadium in Casablanca. The final takes place tonight between South Africa and the host, Morocco. Arsenal completed the signing of versatile Ukraine midfielder Alexander Zinchenko from Manchester City. The 25-year-old flew from City's president tour of the USA to complete their move after Arsenal agreed to a £30 million deal, which includes a £2 million in add-ons. He has signed a long-term contract with the London club and is their fifth signing of the summer. Aston Villa scored at the nick of added time to hand new Manchester United coach Erik ten Hag his first draw as United's manager. United were 2 goals up in a pre-season match early this morning, with goal from Jadon Sancho and an own goal from an Aston Villa player. The match is preparatory to the 2022-2023 EPL campaign due to begin on August 5. With sports update, Ahmad Fulani, NTA News.
Ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà ogún náírà ọ̀fẹ́ ni o. Bẹ́ẹ̀ni, ẹ kàn so NIN yín pẹ̀lú ohun ìpè Glo yín, òun ló bá tán lówó bá dé. Bẹ́ẹ̀ni, báwo la ṣe máa so NIN number wa mọ́ òpó ìpè Glo line wa? Ó simple, ìwọ testa 109#.
Irú àwa tí a wà ní nọ́mbà ìdánimọ̀ NIN yìí rárá ń kọ́.
Ẹ lọ sí ẹ̀ka ilé ìtajà Glo kẹ́ ẹ lọ fi orúkọ yín sílẹ̀ níbẹ̀, òun lè bá ṣe lówó bá dé. Ẹ dákun, ẹ jọ̀wọ́, báwo lèmi náà yóò ṣe jàǹfààní káàdì ìpè ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà ogún náírà ọ̀fẹ́? Ṣé ẹ rí àwọn oníbàárà Glo tuntun àti àwọn tó ti wà ńbẹ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀? Ǹjẹ́ ẹ mọ̀ pé gbogbo wa pátápátá òun la láǹfààní àti jẹ káàdì?
Èmi náà mo ti gba ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà ogún náírà.
Well, this is how far we can go on Weekend Report tonight. We do thank you for watching. Good evening. I will leave you with the weather forecast for tomorrow, Sunday, 24th of July, 2022. Good evening.